This episode will describe the history of the Mexican Mafia rules, also known as reglas. When Luis "Güero Buff" Flores introduced the idea of forming a gang of gangs inside the DVI California Youth Authority facility in Tracy, California, he understood very well the caliber of gang members he was dealing with. Possessing monumental egos, these young men represented the creme de la creme. They were the leaders of their respective street gangs, and each recruit owned a violent criminal resume, which qualified them for membership into this elite group. Exercising astute wisdom, Güero Buff never entertained the notion of appointing neither himself nor anyone else to the lofty position of president, general, shot caller, or any other formal title that would place his co-founders in a subservient role. Instead, he tailor-made the Mexican Mafia's original structure to conform to these personalities. Instead of designated ranks or positions, leadership roles over time would naturally be deferred to those members who earned that privilege. The Mexican Mafia was founded on what you could call an egalitarian principle, in which all members were equal and a one-man, one-vote majority rule system was established. Güero Buff's fellow Hawaiian Garden Street homeboy was standing by his side when the Mexican Mafia was born. The original members, between 15 to 20 in number, include the men you see in this photo: Luis "Güero Buff" Flores and Alejandro "Hando" Lechuga from Hawaiian Gardens, Frank "Big Sluggo" Castañeda, his brother Gabriel "Little Sluggo" Castañeda, Rafael "Chispa" Sandoval, and Luis "Louis" Araujo from Eloyo Maravilla, Marcelo "Gabby" Baeza, and Ruben "Snuffy" Sanchez from Florencia 13, Eddie "Potato Nose" Luera from Garrity, Conrad "Big D" Garcia from San Fernando, Benjamin "Topo" Peters from Eloyo Soto, Abraham "A.B." Reyes from Ford Maravilla, Richard "Richie" Ruiz from Bakersfield, Mike "Big Mike" Mulhern, and Jesus "Liro" Pedrosa from Primera Flats were the main players at Ground Zero. The internet is filled with Mother Goose stories, and one myth is that there were 13 original members from the Mexican Mafia. The number 13, of course, representing the letter M, is a sexier narrative for some folks, but there were really between 15 to 20 original members. Most of these were identified here. Richard "Dicky" Cisneros from Primera Flats is another OG member, not shown because I don't have his photo. When you hear the older G's like Jimmy "Rube" Soto and the late Ernie "Kilroy" Roybal proclaiming to be the co-founders of the Mexican Mafia, they are both incorrect and correct. I will explain. They are technically incorrect because although they were in the penal system in 1957, and before that, Kilroy was older than Güero Buff for that matter, they were not part of the original core at DVI. They would come a little later. They are correct in calling themselves co-founders because when many of them were reunited in 1960 and 1961 as adult convicts at San Quentin, they collectively agreed to create a binding prison gang organization complete with death oath and rules. Cheyenne Cadena from Bakersfield, Güero Buff, Kilroy, Big D, Richie, Liro from Flats, Cuate from Eloyo Mara, and other early members did indeed formally create a Mexican Mafia in which the only way out of the gang was to be executed. Prior members from DVI like Snuffy Sanchez, Big Mike, Little Little Sluggo, Gabby from Florencia, and others were given the option to re-enlist when they returned to the joint, or be given a pass if they chose not to re-up. The fellows also agreed on another term for their new official organization. In 1961, the Mexican Mafia rules were established in San Quentin when the gang was restructured from its 1957 beginnings at the Dual Vocational Institution. Their formal introduction was intended to raise the bar for its members and represent the commitment hasta la muerte, until death, to la M. Every soldier clearly understood they were members for life, and violation of a Mexican Mafia edict would carry the ultimate punishment, death. The term M was introduced at this time. M is the Spanish phonetic pronunciation of the letter M and is interchangeably used to this day to denote a made member. Accompanied by death on a daily basis, these elite men viewed themselves as immortals and conducted themselves accordingly. Other groups would copy and paste this death oath, just as La M copied it from the Italian mobsters. In the world of gangsters, you will see that everyone emulates other gangs in one form or another. Over half a century later, the first Mexican Mafia commandments are still in effect today with an additional rule. So let's break them down. Rule number 1 is the oath of loyalty. Every new prospect during his grooming period is told the M comes first and foremost, even before a member's blood family. Unlike a Hollywood B-rated movie or rah-rah gang indoctrination, a new member sponsor impresses and emphasizes the M's demand of complete loyalty to the organization. Rule number 2 is the death oath. Once you are a carnal, a brother, you are a member for life, and the only way out of the organization is to be executed. I personally am not aware of one M member who was ever pursued and killed for just walking away from the organization. As long as you haven't become an informant or debriefed or talked to law enforcement, every M member who has disappeared from active status and never returned to the street or prison life is for the most part written off. After all, if you think about it, who wants an unwilling partner in crime? I wanted people around me who willingly and wholeheartedly had my back when conducting criminal business. To have someone who is half-stepping is to invite betrayal. But then again, rules are made to be broken. Contrary to popular belief, some Mexican Mafia members have been allowed to gracefully retire from the organization without incurring the ultimate punishment of death for being in violation of the death oath. Some of those became born-again Christians and they were spared. What they had in common is they all put in a ton of work for La M, were loved and respected by their fellow members. They never debriefed or became snitches and never returned to the life. Some of the M carnales who joined the ranks of true believers were Conrad Big D Garcia, Art Conejo Blajos, Johnny Green Eyes Gonzalez, and Ernie Kilroy Roybal. They never attempted to return to the world of darkness and were real about their new direction in life. Rule number 3 is the code of silence. This rule mandates that a member must never admit to anyone, especially to a member of the law enforcement community, the existence of the Mexican Mafia. So let's get real here. When today's younger members have the black hand almost tattooed on their foreheads, advertising to all they are made, card-carrying members of La M, where's the big secret? In the current picture, longtime M member Rup Soto is a walking billboard advertising his M affiliation. This rule highlights the spirit of the M law more so than the letter of the law. They surely are very aware of the existing database available to every corrections and law enforcement officer in this country and abroad, listing every validated Mexican Mafia member who has come down the pike. Self-admission is now considered a common occurrence. From bold body tattoos, plea agreements that require admitting membership, taped interviews where members arrogantly admit their MS status, telephone conversations, correspondence, etc. I believe it is safe to say the cat is out of the bag. The code of silence has been reduced to a mere ritual. Rule number 4 is an oath of duty. A member is required to carry out any business or assignment entrusted to him, especially a suicide attack, an execution performed if necessary in front of correctional or police officers, even if his life is placed in mortal or great physical jeopardy. Given the unique situation where a target was protected or otherwise unattainable, no personal sacrifice or exemption was in existence, preventing an carnal from serving his organization. Rule number 5 is the oath of brotherhood. A member must never attack, endanger, or abandon a Mexican Mafia carnal without the organization's sanction. Even if a fellow member engages in an act that is outside the normal area of their code of conduct, such as attacking a prison guard or police officer, a member is required to provide support in furtherance of his carnal's mission. Rule number 6, politicking. A member must never engage in politicking or participate in a negative campaign to affect the demise of another member without irrefutable evidence to support an allegation. To this day, this rule has historically been abused by members, and many carnales have perished as a result of internal house cleaning resulting from those who have more respect, criminal craftiness, and status prevailing over those who do not. Drug-related deaths and internal murders make up about 95% of Mexican Mafia-related deaths. Rule number 7, cowardice. A member must never display fear, weakness, or hesitation in dealing with the organization's adversaries. Always subject to interpretation and case by case, the has a zero tolerance for even the hint of cowardice and is particularly harsh on its own members. Maintaining the lofty standard of fearlessness and ferocity, even the perception of weakness has resulted in the deaths of several members. A brother has to constantly be on top of his game, especially when you are perpetually under the critical scrutiny of your fellow carnales. No one cares what you did yesterday. An member's continued loyalty is measured by your ongoing performance today. Rule number 8, betrayal. A member must not become romantically or sexually involved with a fellow member's wife or girlfriend. Although things have been known to happen between members of the opposite sex, the risk of such an involvement will surely incur the wrath of La M, and there are plenty of ladies at their disposal who enjoy the company of the ultimate bad boy. Rule number 9, sponsorship. A made Mexican Mafia member must be sponsored by a padrino, Spanish for godfather, or multiple sponsors who in effect raise their hands for the new member. Unanimous approval from the membership was originally required for joining the The padrino is responsible for indoctrinating and grooming him prior to a vote taken for bringing him into his new crime family. In the general voting process, where the new recruit's name is circulated to all the members for approval, 3 types of votes are typically returned. 1, yes vote. 2, defer to sponsor vote, same as a yes vote. And 3, a no vote. Because every Mexican Mafia member possesses veto power, 1 no vote automatically nullifies any further attempt to recruit the prospective member, and he is not allowed induction. A unanimous combination of yes and or defer to sponsor votes gives the final okay to officially seal the introduction of the new member into the M ranks. Contrary to population of the new member into the M ranks. Contrary to popular belief, a Mexican Mafia member is not required to perform a designated hit to be inducted, nor is there any ritual requiring the intermingling of blood. After the prospective member is voted in, customary embraces, handshakes, and backslaps welcome the new carnal into the organization. In addition to the original M rules, which continue to be enforced, there is now a 10th Mexican Mafia commandment on the books. Rule number 10, encroachment. A member may not steal from or encroach upon the turf of another member. The M reglas are never written on paper for fear they will be confiscated by law enforcement. The new member's padrino will explain all of the rules, which the new recruit is expected to memorize. A violation of any rule is punishable by death. Gray rules are the same as unwritten rules. Attacking law enforcement and killing innocent people are examples of rules that are not punishable by death, but can be depending on the case. Because La M makes their own rules, they also interpret them case by case, they judge them, and they are their own executioners if any violation is deemed punishable by death. In the end, the bottom line is, it's their rules, they made them, and they can break or enforce them in any way they see fit. I often listen with some amusement as gang experts complain about a rules violator who did not get whacked. My reply to them is something like, so sue them. There is a widely accepted myth that the sponsoring padrino is responsible for taking out and inherits the blame for a Mexican Mafia member gone bad. Because multiple members participate in the voting process, the sponsor is generally not held accountable for his error in judgment, for his recruit gone bad, and it is simply written off as the cost of conducting business. In the perfect situation, the sponsor or padrino would surely enjoy the luxury of killing a person he personally raised his hand for. But in the real world, it does not work in this manner. Simply put, any carnal who has the opportunity to effect the execution of a Mexican Mafia member who falls from grace is required and expected to do so. Most of the Perplexed News episodes I have shared with you thus far are a reflection of many of my personal experiences as a one-time faithful servant of an evil cause. My desire is that you will understand the pitfalls of that life. Never allow anyone to mischaracterize that world as something noble, rewarding, honorable, or good, for that is a big lie from the pit of hell. It is perverted, evil, shameful, cowardly, and has nothing to do with Chicano, community, or Mexican pride. That life represents the exact opposite of what any well-adjusted human being should wish for their children or loved ones. These dozens of episodes are the first wave with many more to come. Thank you for tuning in, and I thank the Lord for allowing me to represent Him in my new life. Finally, I thank Perplexed News for affording me this venue to share with you all. God bless you.